The Temple of First Light had stood for 10,000 years on the forgotten world of Kael'thar, and in all that time, its gates had never opened. Empires rose and fell. Stars were born and died. Entire civilizations made pilgrimages across the galaxy to stand before those towering doors of crystalline metal, etched with symbols that predated known language itself. Kings knelt. Priests chanted. Warriors bled. Scientists calculated. Mystics meditated for decades in the shadow of those gates. Nothing worked. The temple remained sealed, silent, eternal. The prophecies were clear, though maddeningly vague. When one comes who is unknown to history yet destined by fate, whose spirit burns with the fire of impossibility, the first light shall wake. Scholars had spent centuries debating what that meant. Unknown to history? A newborn? Destined by fate? Everyone was destined for something, weren't they? The fire of impossibility? Poets loved that phrase, but it explained nothing. And so the temple waited, surrounded by the ruins of ancient cities and the weathered monuments of those who had tried and failed. Kael'thar became a backwater, a footnote in galactic maps, visited only by the most devoted seekers and the occasional archaeologist. The planet was beautiful in its desolation, purple skies, silver-leafed forests, and the temple itself rising from the center of a vast circular plaza like a mountain of frozen light. It was very quiet. Until the day Marcus, Chen's cargo hauler, fell out of the sky. The ship hit atmosphere at entirely the wrong angle, trailing smoke and profanity in equal measure. Marcus had been hauling medical supplies to a mining colony when the nav system decided to interpret Kael'thar Station as Kael'thar, that weird temple planet nobody goes to. No, no, no. Marcus shouted at his console, which was displaying error messages in 3 languages, none of which were encouraging. I said Kael'thar with an O. There's a difference. The ship disagreed by way of losing its starboard thruster. Marcus did what any sensible pilot would do. He swore extensively, strapped in tight, and aimed for something flat. The fact that something flat turned out to be an ancient plaza of historical significance was not his fault. He was simply following the first rule of emergency landings. Survive first, apologize later. The crash was spectacular. The ship skipped across the plaza like a stone on water, leaving a trail of scorched stone and scattered cargo crates before finally grinding to a halt about 50 meters from the temple steps. For a moment, everything was still. Then Marcus kicked open the emergency hatch and tumbled out, coughing and patting out a small fire on his jacket. Great, he muttered, looking at his ship. The whole starboard side was crumpled like paper. There goes my deposit. He was 32 years old, average height, with the kind of face that people forgot 5 minutes after meeting him. His hair was dark and messy. His flight suit was covered in coffee stains and repair patch logos. And he had the permanent squint of someone who spent too much time staring at malfunctioning equipment. Marcus Chen was not a hero. He was not a warrior or a scholar or a chosen one. He was a cargo pilot who'd been late on his insurance payments and was already dreading the paperwork this crash would generate. He looked around at the ruins, the purple sky, the enormous temple looming in front of him. Where the hell am I? His comm unit crackled with static. Dead. Of course it was dead. Marcus sighed and began walking around his ship, assessing the damage. The hull was breached in 3 places. The thruster was slag. The nav system was somehow still displaying error messages, which felt petty. Okay, he said to himself, because talking to yourself was better than silence. Okay, not great. But I've got emergency rations, a repair kit, and a beacon. Someone will pick up the beacon. Eventually. Probably. He looked at the temple. It was bigger up close. Much bigger. The doors alone had to be 30 meters tall, covered in patterns that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. The whole structure hummed with a frequency just below hearing, felt more than heard. Huh, Marcus said. Fancy. He'd heard of the Temple of First Light vaguely, the way everyone had. A legend, a mystery, one of those places people made documentaries about. He'd never paid much attention. Temples and prophecies weren't really his thing. Right now, he was more concerned about the fact that his water recycler was making an ominous clicking sound. Marcus spent the next hour trying to salvage what he could from the ship. He set up his emergency beacon, patched a hole in his suit, and ate a protein bar that tasted like cardboard mixed with regret. Then he sat on a cargo crate and stared at the temple. Guess you've been here a while, huh? he said to it. The temple did not respond. Yeah, me too, Marcus said. Waiting, I mean. Waiting for someone to answer my distress call. Waiting for my life to get less complicated. We've all got our thing. He stood up, brushing dust off his pants, and decided to walk the perimeter of the plaza. Maybe there was a comm relay somewhere, or water. Water would be good. As he walked, he didn't notice the way the light around the temple seemed to shift, just slightly. He didn't notice the faint vibration in the ground beneath his feet. He was too busy thinking about how he was going to explain this to his insurance company. The sensors registered it first. Across the galaxy, in the Hall of Sacred Mysteries on the world of Varketh, an alarm began to sound. A soft chime at first, then louder, more insistent. High Priest Velmoth looked up from his meditation, his four eyes widening in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. The sensor array showed activity on Kael'thar. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Temple of First Light was responding, not opening. Not yet, but responding. Velmoth's hands trembled as he activated the emergency relay. Within minutes, every major power in the galaxy would know someone, something, was at the temple, and the prophecy was beginning. Marcus, blissfully unaware that he'd just triggered a galactic event, was trying to pry open a stuck access panel on his ship's hull. Come on. You piece of junk, he grunted, leveraging his pry bar. Just one more. The panel popped free, and Marcus stumbled backward, lost his balance, and fell directly onto his rear end. Ow. He sat there for a moment, contemplating his life choices, then noticed something odd. The temple was glowing, just faintly, a soft blue-white light emanating from the cracks between the door and the frame. Marcus frowned. That's new. He stood up, walked closer, and studied the doors. The patterns were definitely glowing now, pulsing in a slow rhythm like a heartbeat. Huh, he said again. Maybe the crash had triggered something? Vibrations or energy discharge or something. Marcus wasn't an archaeologist, but he knew that old tech sometimes reacted to electrical fields. He reached out and touched the door, more out of curiosity than anything else. The moment his hand made contact, the entire temple blazed with light. The doors shuddered. The ground trembled. And with a sound like the universe taking a deep breath, the Temple of First Light began to open. Marcus jumped back, eyes wide. Oh, hell, he said. I didn't break it, did I? The awakening. The doors opened like the petals of a flower made of starlight. Marcus stumbled backward, shielding his eyes from the brilliance pouring out from within. The light wasn't harsh, it was warm, almost gentle, but it was everywhere, painting the purple sky white and casting shadows that seemed to reach across the planet. Okay, I'm sorry, Marcus shouted, hands up in surrender. I'll pay for damages. I have insurance, sort of. The light began to fade, settling into a soft glow that illuminated the interior of the temple. Marcus lowered his hand slowly, blinking spots from his vision. The inside was impossible. The doorway should have led to a chamber, a room, something with walls and a ceiling. Instead, Marcus found himself looking into a space that seemed to stretch on forever. Pillars of crystal rose into a sky that shouldn't exist, supporting nothing and everything. Streams of light flowed like water through the air, forming patterns that hurt to look at directly, not because they were bright, but because they were complex in a way his brain couldn't quite process. And at the center of it all, floating above a platform of pure white stone, was something that might have been an altar or might have been a throne or might have been something humans didn't have a word for. What the... Marcus trailed off. He stood there for a long moment, cargo pilot from Earth, staring at something built by beings who'd probably forgotten more about the universe than humanity had ever learned. Then his comm unit crackled. Marcus jumped, fumbling for the device on his belt. It shouldn't be working. It had been dead since the crash. Emergency frequency, anyone receiving. This is... The voice cut in and out, but it was definitely getting a signal now. Yes. Hello? Marcus shouted into the comm. This is cargo hauler Red Tiger registration number. Wait, hold on. He looked back at the temple, at the open doors, at the impossible space within. I think I might have accidentally broken into a temple, he said into the comm. I didn't mean to. The door just... I barely touched it, and look, I'll shut it again if someone can tell me how. The comm exploded with overlapping voices. Confirmed, the temple is open. Prophecy is fulfilled. Get a containment team to Kael'thar immediately. Who is this? Identify yourself at once. Marcus pulled the comm away from his ear, wincing. One at a time, please. I'm just a pilot. My nav system screwed up and I crashed here and... A new voice cut through the chaos, deep and resonant with authority that made Marcus instinctively stand straighter. Attention, unknown vessel. This is High Commander Zelkoth of the Galactic Council Fleet. You are on sacred ground. State your species, name, and purpose immediately. Marcus swallowed. Human. Marcus Chen. And my purpose was delivering medical supplies to a mining colony, but apparently my ship thought this was the place instead, so... Accident. Silence, then. Did you say human? Yeah, is that a problem? More silence, longer this time. Marcus could hear frantic whispering in the background. Lots of voices talking over each other. Sir, the databases show humans are a pre-contact species from... How did they get faster than light capability? They shouldn't have... Someone check if this is a joke. The commander's voice returned, carefully controlled. Marcus Chen, listen very carefully. Do not enter the temple. Do not touch anything else. Do not move. A diplomatic vessel is being dispatched to your location. Estimated arrival 3 hours. Do you understand? Marcus looked at the open temple doors, then down at his comm unit. Yeah, I understand. But just so we're clear, I already touched the door. That's kind of how it opened. The sound that came through the comm might have been someone fainting. High Priest Velmoth materialized on Kael'thar 2 hours and 47 minutes later, along with a diplomatic entourage that included scholars, warriors, and enough recording equipment to document a small war. They found Marcus sitting on a cargo crate, eating another protein bar and reading a book on his datapad. Velmoth approached slowly, reverently, his ceremonial robes trailing behind him. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, with gray skin that shimmered like mercury and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. His species, the Vornai, were known throughout the galaxy as the keepers of ancient wisdom. He stopped 10 paces from Marcus and dropped to one knee, head bowed. The Chosen One, he said, his voice trembling with emotion. The legend made flesh. We have waited 10,000 years for this moment. Marcus looked up from his datapad, then looked around to see who the priest was talking to. Oh, he said, realizing. Oh no, you mean me? You have opened the Temple of First Light, Velmoth said, still kneeling. You have fulfilled the prophecy. You are unknown to our histories, yet destiny itself has brought you here. I crashed here because my nav system is garbage, Marcus said. That's not destiny, that's just bad luck and worse maintenance. Velmoth finally looked up, all 4 eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. The prophecy spoke of one whose spirit burns with the fire of impossibility. Tell me, Marcus Chen of humanity, how did your species achieve faster than light travel? Marcus blinked. The Alcubierre drive? We figured it out like 40 years ago. My ship's version is kind of old and cranky, but 40 years, Velmoth whispered. The other aliens in the entourage were murmuring now, consulting datapads and speaking rapidly in languages Marcus didn't recognize. One of them, an insectoid being with translator implants, stepped forward. Human. The Alcubierre principle requires exotic matter with negative energy density. The mathematics are sound, but every civilization in the galaxy has concluded that such matter cannot be synthesized in sufficient quantities to be practical. How did you solve this problem? Marcus shrugged. Dr. Sarah Morrison figured out you could use quantum field manipulation to create localized negative energy states. It's all in the journals. I mean, I don't understand the math, I just fly the ships. The insectoid's mandibles clicked rapidly. That should not work. The energy requirements alone would... Yeah, everyone said it was impossible, Marcus agreed. But Dr. Morrison was really stubborn. She once worked for 72 hours straight, fueled by spite and coffee. So she made it work anyway. Velmoth stood slowly, his robe settling around him. When he spoke, his voice was filled with wonder and something that might have been fear. Do you know what you are describing? You are describing a species that achieves the impossible through determination and spite? Well, when you put it that way, it sounds weird, Marcus said. But yeah, basically, that's kind of humanity's whole thing. Someone says something can't be done, and some human somewhere takes that as a personal challenge. The entourage erupted in excited conversation. Marcus caught fragments. Explains the anomaly readings. They're Homeworld's physics are somehow different, or they're different from physics. Need to study this immediately. Velmoth raised a hand for silence. Marcus Chen, I must ask you a question of great importance. When you touched the temple doors, what did you feel? Marcus thought about it. Honestly, I was checking to see if they were solid or some kind of hologram. They felt like metal, cold metal. That's it. You felt nothing else? No surge of power, no voice in your mind, no sense of destiny calling to you? Nope, just cold metal. Then they opened and I thought I'd broken something expensive. Velmoth turned to his fellow priests. They conferred in low voices, occasionally glancing at Marcus with expressions that ranged from awe to confusion, to what might have been existential crisis. Finally, Velmoth turned back. The prophecy becomes clear. Unknown to history, your species appeared on the galactic stage mere decades ago. Destined by fate, you crashed here seemingly by accident, yet the universe guided you. The fire of impossibility. You're a being from a species that makes the impossible merely inconvenient. I feel like you're reading way too much into this, Marcus said. The temple has stood sealed for 10,000 years, Velmoth continued, his voice rising with passion. Emperors and gods have tried to open it. The most powerful beings in the galaxy have failed. And you, a simple pilot as you claim, touched it without even meaning to, and it opened. Do you not see? You are the embodiment of the prophecy precisely because you do not seek to be. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. Okay, but counterpoint. Maybe the door was just stuck and nobody had tried jiggling the handle for a while? One of the scholars made a sound like a tire deflating. Velmoth smiled, or at least made the Vornai equivalent, which involved his face splitting into way too many segments. I begin to understand. Your species does not believe in destiny because you have spent your entire existence defying it. The universe says impossible and you say, watch me. The temple recognized this. It recognized you. Or, Marcus said desperately, and hear me out here. My ship's crash landing generated some kind of electromagnetic pulse that disrupted whatever was keeping the door sealed. And it's all just a coincidence? There are no coincidences, Velmoth said serenely. Only patterns we do not yet understand, Marcus sighed. He could tell when he was fighting a losing battle. Fine, okay. Let's say I'm your chosen one or whatever. What now? Is there like a quest I need to do? A dragon to fight? Please tell me there's no dragon. Now, Velmoth said. You must enter the temple. The door's open for you. The secrets within await. Marcus looked at the glowing doorway, then at his broken ship, then at the rapidly darkening purple sky. Can I at least get my ship fixed first, and maybe file my insurance claim? Because I'm pretty sure accidentally fulfilled an ancient prophecy isn't covered under my current policy. The truth beneath the light, they compromised. Marcus would enter the temple in the morning, after a night's rest, a decent meal, which the expedition supplied, and which was surprisingly good despite being designed for alien biology, and a thorough inspection of his ship by the fleet's engineers. The starboard thruster is completely slag, the chief engineer reported. She was a Krell, built like a boulder with 6 arms and a professional demeanor that Marcus immediately respected. Nav systems fried too. You're lucky you survived the landing. Story of my life, Marcus muttered. Can you fix it? Give me 2 days and a priority parts requisition, sure. She paused. Though I'm told you might be busy saving the galaxy or whatever. I'm really hoping that's not actually my job. The engineer's laugh sounded like rocks in a cement mixer. I like you, human. You've got the right attitude about destiny. Don't trust it. Marcus spent the evening sitting on the temple steps watching the alien expedition set up their camp. They'd brought enough equipment to study a small moon. Sensors, recording devices, what looked like a portable laboratory, and several things Marcus couldn't identify but that hummed ominously. Velmoth joined him as the first stars appeared in the purple sky. You are troubled, the priest observed. I'm always troubled, Marcus said. It's a human thing. But yeah, this is a lot. You do not wish to be special. I'm not special, Marcus corrected. That's kind of the point. I'm painfully, aggressively average. I got C's in school. I've been late to every job I've ever had. My last performance review said I was adequately competent. That's not exactly chosen one material. Velmoth settled onto the step beside him, his robes pooling around him like liquid. Perhaps that is precisely why the temple chose you. Every being who came here before came seeking power, knowledge, glory. They came with purpose and ambition. You came with, what did you call it? A broken nav system and bad luck. You're really romanticizing my incompetence here. I am recognizing that your species has a different relationship with the universe than most. Tell me about Earth, Marcus Chen. What is it like, your homeworld? Marcus leaned back, looking up at the unfamiliar stars. Earth is chaotic, beautiful, and terrible and chaotic. We've got like 200 countries, thousands of languages, millions of different opinions about everything. We can't even agree on what to eat for dinner most of the time, let alone anything important. And yet you achieved faster than light travel. Yeah, because a few brilliant, stubborn people refused to give up. Not because humanity as a whole was united or destined for greatness. Just because some individuals decided impossible was a suggestion rather than a rule. Velmoth was quiet for a long moment. There is something you should know, he said finally. Something the Galactic Council has been investigating since we first learned of your species. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. That sounds ominous. Earth should not exist. What? Your planet's position in the galaxy, its formation, the development of your species, all of it violates several fundamental principles we thought were universal laws. The probability of a planet like Earth forming where it did is so infinitesimally small that our best scientists calculate it as effectively impossible. Marcus frowned. But we're here. Obviously it happened. Yes, obviously. Velmoth turned his four eyes to Marcus, and there was something ancient in that gaze. Your species describes impossible things happening and then shrugs and says, but it happened anyway. Do you understand how alien that is to the rest of us? We respect the laws of physics, of probability, of destiny. You negotiate with them. We do not negotiate with physics, Marcus said. Physics wins every argument. Trust me, I've crashed enough ships to know. And yet you survive. And yet you thrive. And yet you opened a temple that defied gods and emperors for 10,000 years, simply by touching it while thinking about insurance paperwork. Marcus had no response to that. The prophecy, Velmoth continued, was not written by my people. It was found inside the temple itself, carved in a language that predates all known civilizations. We have spent millennia trying to understand who built this place and why. Perhaps... He paused. Perhaps they knew. Perhaps they knew that someday a species would arise that should not exist, that would make impossible things routine, and they left this place as a message. For you. That's terrifying, Marcus said quietly. Yes, Velmoth agreed, but also wonderful. Come. Dawn approaches, and destiny waits for no one. Though in your case, destiny seems content to wait for you to finish your coffee first. At sunrise, Marcus stood before the temple doors again, this time with an audience. The expedition had grown overnight. More ships had arrived, bringing representatives from a dozen species, all of them keeping a respectful distance but recording everything. Marcus felt like a specimen under a microscope. Whenever you're ready, Velmoth said gently. Marcus took a breath, squared his shoulders, and walked into the temple. The interior was just as impossible as before, but now he could see more details. The pillars weren't solid. They were made of light that somehow had weight and substance. The streams flowing through the air left trails that lingered before fading into mathematical equations. His footsteps echoed in ways that footsteps shouldn't, creating harmonies that sounded almost like music. The platform at the center of the space was closer than it looked, or maybe distance worked differently here. Marcus found himself standing before it without remembering the walk. On the platform sat a sphere of perfect darkness, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Okay, Marcus said to the empty air. I'm here. I opened your door. What happens now? The sphere pulsed once, and suddenly Marcus was not alone. They weren't ghosts exactly, and they weren't holograms. They were presences, impressions of beings that had existed long ago. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, standing around the platform in a silent crowd, and they were all looking at him with expressions that transcended species and time. Curiosity, hope, and profound relief. One stepped forward, at least. Marcus thought of it as stepping, though it didn't really have legs or feet. It was vaguely humanoid, made of light that was somehow darker than darkness and brighter than light at the same time. When it spoke, The words appeared directly in Marcus's mind, translated into concepts rather than language. You came? Marcus said eloquently. Yeah, I crashed. Sorry about that, no apologies. You are what we hoped for, what we waited for. Everyone keeps saying that, but I really don't understand why. The being's laughter was like wind chimes made of starlight. Because you are impossible. Because your species should not exist and yet you do. Because you break rules we thought were fundamental to reality itself. We don't break rules, Marcus protested. We just find loopholes and exploit them. And sometimes accidentally stumble through them while trying to fix our ships, yes. Exactly. Do you know what this place is, Marcus Chen? A really impressive temple? This place is a test, a filter, a lock that can only be opened by a very specific key. A being from a species that the universe itself did not plan for, that exists in defiance of cosmic probability, that makes the impossible merely inconvenient. Marcus thought about that, about Earth hanging in space where the math said it shouldn't be, about humans achieving warp drive through sheer stubborn refusal to accept limitations, about himself, a completely average person who'd somehow fulfilled a prophecy by accident. Why? He asked. Why make a lock like that? Why wait for someone like me? Because we wanted to leave our knowledge to those who would use it correctly. We were the first builders, Marcus Chen. We shaped galaxies and ignited suns. We created wonders beyond imagination. And we nearly destroyed everything. The being gestured, and images filled the impossible space. Civilizations spanning thousands of worlds. Technologies that made the current Galactic Council look like children with toys. Achievements that Marcus couldn't even fully comprehend. We became drunk on our own power. We believed we could control everything, predict everything, direct the very flow of causality itself. We were wrong. In our arrogance, we nearly tore apart the fabric of reality. The images shifted, showing destruction on a cosmic scale. Stars going dark, galaxies collapsing. We stopped ourselves barely, and in our final act, we left this place. Our knowledge, our discoveries, our tools, all locked away behind a test that only a very specific type of being could pass. One who achieved greatness not through rigid control or perfect planning, but through chaos, adaptation, and the sheer bloody-minded refusal to accept impossible as an answer. You wanted someone who wouldn't use your knowledge to play God, Marcus said slowly. You wanted someone who'd use it to, what? Fix their spaceship and file insurance paperwork? We wanted someone humble enough to recognize that the universe is too complex to control, someone adaptable enough to survive its chaos, someone who achieves impossible things not through destiny or divine right, but through trial, error, stubbornness, and occasionally dumb luck. The being reached out and the sphere of darkness floated up, drifting toward Marcus. Our legacy is yours now, Marcus Chen of humanity. Not because you are chosen, not because you are destined, but because you are exactly what we needed. Someone who doesn't want to be special, who doesn't seek power, who just wants to fix their ship and go home. Take our gift. Use it wisely, or foolishly. Either way, we trust you'll survive. The sphere touched Marcus's chest and dissolved into light, flooding through him. Information, vast and ancient, began downloading into his mind. Not all at once, but slowly, gently, like a conversation that would take years to finish. Wait, Marcus said, stumbling slightly. I don't want to be the guardian of ancient cosmic knowledge. I have a route to finish. I have cargo deadlines. Then keep your deadlines, the being said, fading now along with the others. Live your life. Fix your ship. File your insurance claim. The knowledge will be there when you need it, when humanity needs it. We trust you will know when that time comes, or you won't and you'll stumble into it by accident. Either way works. This is the worst prophecy fulfillment ever, Marcus muttered. The being's laughter echoed through the impossible space, warm and fond. Yes, they agreed. Yes, it is. That's why we know it will work, and then they were gone. And Marcus was standing alone on the platform with knowledge of the first builders, slowly organizing itself in his mind like the world's strangest filing system. He walked out of the temple to find Velmoth and the entire expedition waiting with bated breath. Well? The priest asked. What happened? What did you see? What did you learn? Marcus looked at them all. The scholars, the warriors, the priests, the politicians, all waiting for him to say something profound and world-changing. I learned, he said carefully, that the universe has a really weird sense of humor, and that I'm definitely going to need therapy after this. Velmoth stared at him. That's it? That's what the first builders told you? Oh, they told me a lot more, Marcus admitted. But most of it is going to take me about 40 years to fully understand, and I'm honestly not sure I'm qualified to explain it. Also, I think I'm technically the keeper of ancient cosmic secrets now, which is going to be really awkward to put on my resume. You jest, Velmoth said, even now, when you have been given the greatest honor in galactic history. I'm not jesting, Marcus said. I'm coping. There's a difference. Also, can someone please help me fix my ship? Because chosen one or not, I still have a cargo contract to fulfill, and the penalty fees for late delivery are no joke. The expedition looked at each other, at Marcus, at the temple behind him, and then the Krell engineer laughed that rock tumbler laugh and slapped Marcus on the back hard enough to make him stumble. I like him, she announced. The universe picks a weird little human who just wants to do his job. Yeah, I'll fix your ship. On one condition. What condition? Marcus asked warily. You take me with you sometimes. I want to see how your species drives. I bet it's hilarious. Marcus grinned despite everything. Deal. Fair warning though, we consider close enough a valid navigation technique. Of course you do, Velmoth said faintly. Of course you do. 3 days later, Marcus Chen lifted off from Kael'thar in a fully repaired ship, courtesy of the Galactic Council, who decided that helping the Chosen One was probably good policy. The Temple of First Light stood behind him, its doors still open. Apparently they didn't close again once opened, which was going to make the archaeologist very happy. In his head, ancient knowledge whispered secrets about the universe. In his hold, medical supplies waited for delivery. In his pocket, a datapad contained the most complex insurance claim in human history. Right, he said to his newly repaired nav system. Let's try this again. Kael'thar Station, with an O. Think you can handle that? The nav system beeped affirmatively. Good. Let's go home. As his ship jumped to FTL, leaving Kael'thar behind, Marcus Chen, cargo pilot, Chosen One, and keeper of ancient cosmic secrets, made a note to pick up coffee at the next station. He was going to need it. Behind him, the galaxy began to change. Word of the human who opened the temple spread through every civilization. Earth, that impossible little world full of impossible stubborn beings, suddenly became very interesting to very powerful people. But that was a problem for future Marcus. Present Marcus just wanted to make his delivery on time and maybe, just maybe, have one normal day. Though given his luck, that seemed unlikely.